Howdy folks, Jambareeqi here. A couple of years ago, I ranked every Dreamworks villain. Today, it's time to rank all of those same baddies' assistive minions. If a particular evil sidekick doesn't end up on my list though, it's most likely because they didn't give me enough to write about. Now, let's get the ball rolling. Rapunzel. From Shrek the Third, Rapunzel is a princess who attends Fiona's baby shower. Then, when Prince Charming invades the palace, Rapunzel joins the other guests in a secret escape, only to then reveal that she was a mole for Charming all along. This is a pretty lousy attempt at an animated twist minion if you ask me. You see, Rapunzel doesn't exactly stand out as a potential undercover baddie, because most of the other party guests are just as mean and vain as her.
Rapunzel, Rapunzel, let down thy golden extension.
As a double agent, Rapunzel doesn't even really do that much. She doesn't lie about directions or make the princesses mistrust Fiona. Heck, Fiona seems to be unknowingly leading everyone towards the trap, and Rapunzel just has to run ahead once we draw closer to Charming. Even once she's officially a minion, the film can't even decide on what to do with her or how to paint her character. Like, she shows concern when Charming threatens to hurt her friends, but it doesn't take that much for her to forget about them. So her morals end up being way too vague. She also seems interested in joining Charming's side for a wide number of reasons, yet the movie can't pick which one seems to drive her the most. Is it a queen ranking? Is it spying towards Fiona? Is it a singing career? Is it a chance to marry a heartthrob? Yeah, she's allowed to have more than one mini motive, but it would have been interesting to see which one appealed to her the most, to show the core of her villainy and what exactly pushed her to betray her friends. That's my issue. Dreamworks are so unconfident who Rapunzel actually is that she becomes this hodgepodge of different minion tropes, with a very rushed evil lovers dynamic with Charming, all because the film was way more interested in shocking audiences with a cheap surprise than coming up with a perfect partner for Prince Charming to have chemistry with.
Jealous much?
Fairy tale villains. From Shrek the Third, when Prince Charming wants to take over Far, Far Away, he convinces his fellow fairy tale baddies to join him in an uprising. Now, I will say that it's kind of fun seeing major villains in minion positions. These classic rogues are best known for being in powerful roles, but this film uniquely switches things up by demoting them down to being Charming sidekicks, giving us a chance to see another side to them all, with Captain Hook mainly stealing the spotlight thanks to his iconic trademark weapon, flair for the grand piano, and passion for pirating.
Ready to flank!
These are very anarchic minions too, destructive and unruly criminals that dominate Far, Far Away with the grace of pub drunks, each one playing their part in helping Charming turn the glamorous kingdom into a dystopian mess. The commitment to Charming's regime doesn't stop at a societal takeover though, because they're also willing to be key players in the prince's propaganda show. Sure, they don't have any talent for theatre whatsoever, but that doesn't really matter when brainwashing is the goal.
Who is this terribly ugly fiend who so rudely intervened?
Will Charming fight or will he flee?
Oh, please rescue me!
From this monstrosity.
Unfortunately, as amusing as these minions are, their eventual defeat is the peak of disappointment. Young Artie ends up taking the stage and somehow manages to emotionally sway every single baddie into collectively surrendering.
I've always wanted to play the flute.
I'd like to open up a spa in France.
Look, I get that the film wants to show Artie's potential for negotiation as the next king, but it's such a big, huge stretch to believe that an inexperienced teenage king's on-the-spot monologue is able to win over this many prideful villains. Eris's monsters from Sinbad. During Eris's mission to foil Sinbad's sea adventure, she relentlessly sends out a myriad of different creatures to be her hench monsters. When you're the goddess of discord, it makes sense that you bring some chaos to the usual lackey lineup by summoning a randomly different mythological beast at unexpected moments, thus adding an atmosphere of trepidation to every monster attack. I especially love how these minions get super creative intros, each one called upon in a unique cosmic way, with all the signature spice and flair of a seductive diva goddess. The animation for these 3D creatures is rather primitive, but it's obvious that they're all loving tributes to the classic work of Ray Harryhausen, so it makes sense that they all stick out a bit. Because Harryhausen's stop-motion monsters also had an eerie uncanniness to its mixed mediums, there's something distinct about each and every Eris minion too. Deadly talents and skilled advantages that set them apart as hench monsters. The Kraken uses its sharp heat sensors to pinpoint strike sailors. The sirens have ambiguously creepy designs, but can potentially sing our heroes into a blue grave. and the high-flying ice bird is a natural snow climate predator that happens to be kaiju-sized. A Sinbad adventure is only as good as its obstacles, and Eris's monsters are the perfect rogues gallery for the sailor to face. Philip, from Wallace and Gromit in The Curse of the Were-Rabbit. Philip is the loyal hunting dog of villain Victor. He's a very helpful pup who is just as malicious as his owner. Despite Philip's loyalty though, Victor doesn't exactly respect or cherish him as a pet. Phil is nothing more than a servant to the villain, hence why Vic is so nonchalant about repeatedly endangering his own dog.
All we have to do now is wait for our fluffy friend to appear.
Hey! Look over here, everyone!
As aggressive as this minion is, it would be disingenuous to label him as a dumb henchman with no brains. Yes, he's a tough brute with a growl to match, but he's actually a very observant dog, and he can even point out things that Vic is missing.
Of course, the vegetable competition.
The best aspect of Philip though, is his brilliantly developed rivalry with Gromit. As soon as these two meet, a tense friction arises between the pups. The film brews and stirs this food throughout, until it bubbles up and explodes into an unforgettable dogfight. A thrilling aerial combat scene that pits Gromit's trademark intellectual flying style against Philip's far more hostile and violent approach to aviation. Even when Phil loses his plane, he's still able to keep the fight going, and he even slickly snatches a weapon off of a building with expert timing, which really shows that he can even be keen-eyed while in the air. Although, it's this priceless little gag that steals the whole finale for me. Sure, Philip does end up losing the dogfight, but he mercifully gets a safe landing, and a misunderstanding gives him the chance to finally own back Victor.
Philip, help me! Philip! Do something!
Eugene Francis. From The Boss Baby, Eugene is the gorilla-like brother of Francis, a big fellow that helps his bro ruin Baby Corp by pretending to be our hero's straight nanny. This muscle-bound and well-dressed minion's biggest quality is his loving devotion to his evil brother. It doesn't matter how degrading a job is, Eugene will always put 200% into it for his sibling. What's interesting is that Eugene is actually the eldest of the two, so Francis is so dominating that he's been able to reverse sibling roles and make his own brother into a simple-minded butler. While his nanny character's authenticity is debatable, I have to admire his commitment to the role. He seems very comfortable wearing drag, and he keeps a tight, military-like hold on the boys. Even though his foes are infants, that does not hold him back from giving his all as a fuckish henchman. This is a duty-focused minion that has no qualms with battling literal babies, even while he's still dressed as a nanny. That's the thing, Eugene is a very disguise-centric minion, a baddie who will happily switch into a costume to trick our heroes, or sneak into Vegas during the finale. Like I said, he's super adaptable.
Elvis has left the building.
In a later twist though, Francis is reverted back to his baby form, and Eugene not only reveals that he's way more articulate than he seemed, but he's also maybe the more mature brother, implying that maybe Francis bullied him into this man-child state that we've been watching, which is a rather disturbing possible revelation.
This time, we'll raise him right.
Melvin Sneedly from Captain Underpants. Melvin is the archetypal class nerd, a tattletale that respects authority more than his own classmates.
Someone has to stand up for the man.
No one has to stand up for the man.
Unlike his fellow pupils, he has no sense of humour, which makes him the perfect power source for Professor Poopypants' evil machine. Now, there's nothing wrong with a kid lacking a taste for lowbrow comedy. Every child has their own idea of what's funny. The issue is that Melvin makes his inability to giggle at farts into everyone else's problem. He could have just accepted that he'll never understand juvenile comedy, but he chooses brainwashing everyone instead.
I don't get it. Why is that funny?
Perfect!
Finally, you're speaking my language!
However, I wouldn't say that Melvin is just a one-dimensional evil geek trope, because we do see hints of a good kid behind the Coke bottle glasses, a boy with strong ethics and good ideals.
This thing is amazing, Professor P. You could probably solve world hunger with an invention like this.
Ugh, pass.
as well as a talent for inventing that shows promise for his potential future career. Heck, a part of me even empathizes with him, because he's technically disabled and may be on the spectrum. Unfortunately though, he's a student at a dystopian school, run by a tyrannical principal who cares more about controlling kids than guiding them into adulthood, which means that the talented Melvin just becomes a pawn in corrupt system. Even when said headmaster is dethroned, Melvin just ends up becoming a sidekick to an equally selfish male role model.
True power comes from within.
No, it doesn't, Melvin. That's on stupid posters.
Luckily though, Melvin's minion experience does make him realize that pleasing authorities that don't really care about him is not worth risking his life for.
Extra credit or survival. They choose survival.
Hopefully, a newly redeemed principal crop will help Melvin grow in a better direction. So we're halfway through my list. Feel free to like, comment and share to help my video out in the algorithm. Thanks folks. Spike and Whitey from Flushed Away. These gangster rats are a pair of clumsy minions that work for the Toad. Spike is the unhinged and erratic one.
What you looking at? Keep still. Come on in. Right.
While Whitey is the albino himbo.
Careful, miss. You'll injure yourself.
Sure, neither of them are particularly competent, and it's mainly coincidental luck that gets them by.
I've had a tip-off. They're heading west to Kensington.
Bingo!
However, the job of comic relief minions isn't to be slick, it's to be entertaining, and that's these two in a nutshell.
Careful, Whitey. That's a banana skin.
They're total opposites as best friends, and the stark contrast makes for an exceptionally funny dynamic, with Spike's jittery franticness juxtaposing against Whitey's gentle calmness.
Keep your legs straight when you hit the water.
I kept my legs straight, Spike.
Those who follow my channel should be unsurprised that I have a soft spot for Whitey in particular. Not only is he basically a cockney cronk, but he also has a sympathetic backstory as a lab rat.
I used to work in a laboratory up top. Yeah, big shampoo job. I was dark grey when we started.
I also have to credit how much they try as henchmen, despite their poor reputation. Like they have their very own loyal underlings, who each ride speedy whisk boats for chase scenes. Plus their Ratmobile is just as gadgety as our hero's jammy dodger. I really like the resolution for this duo as well. It's an ending that really shows that Whitey is too dang wholesome to be a gangster, all while giving us a satisfying karma for the jerky Spike.
Oh, I love a happy ending.
Oh, you've gone soft. I like unhappy endings with lots of violence.
Mr. Tweedy from Chicken Run. This dopey man is the bumbling and submissive husband of the crooked Mrs. Tweedy, an egg farmer who wants to transform her dying chicken farm into a highly profitable pie factory. There's actually something really endearing about Mr. Tweedy, a rural charm that helps him to be just as memorable as Mrs. Tweedy. It's just really lovely hearing him say witless things in his tender Yorkshire accent.
What kind of pies?
Apple.
My favourite.
Chicken pies, you great lummox.
The thing is too, I actually think that Mr. Tweedy doesn't get enough praise for his security efforts. He might seem dim, but he's still managed to thwart every single one of Ginger's intensely planned escape schemes. He's the very reason why our heroes feel hopelessly trapped. Sure, the Tweedy's terrifying dogs do a lot of the heavy lifting at night, but Mr. Tweedy is still an alert and eagle-eyed guard. Heck, unlike Mrs. Tweedy, Mr. Tweedy has actually been catching on to the chicken's unusual behaviour and suspicious plotting, so I think it's kind of unfair to round up his intelligence as completely vapid.
Mrs. Tweedy!
We'd honestly feel sorry for Mr. Tweedy too, because he's still a victim of domestic abuse at the end of the day. He's this frightened, timid and overworked man that's been forced to juggle a multitude of farm jobs, all because Mrs. Tweedy is a typical lazy boss, who abuses and insults a poor husband on a daily basis.
Mr. Tweedy!
Yes, he deserves to be taken down by the chickens and a taste of his own medicine, but I'd be lying if I said that I didn't feel happy for him when he finally feels validated in the end.
I told you they was organized.
Le Frog from Flushed Away. This skilled frog for hire is assigned to the job of retrieving a master cable from our heroes for his despicable cousin, the Toad. Much like Eugene Francis, Le Frog is driven entirely by a loyalty to his family. Even though he fully knows that his cousin is crazy beyond repair, Le Frog stays true to his bloodline and will do anything for our deranged villain.
He's cuckoo, but family.
This minion is mainly brought in as an improved replacement for the comic relief henchmen, Whitey and Spike, and we can understand why Toad sees him as his go-to elite specialist at desperate times. He's an agile amphibian that can effectively stick to walls, shoot his long tongue as a projectile, and slap his enemies at rapid speed, all while being backed up by a team of trained frogs that follow his every order.
Top floor, lingerie, housewares, and certain doom!
Even when his team is knocked out, he can still work as a solo baddie, all while showing a level of menace and threat that's almost as intimidating as his mad cousins. Yes, this minion is very much a cartoon French stereotype, but it's all played tongue-in-cheek, and ties in with England and France's real-life ongoing rivalry.
Okay, men, to action!
We surrender!
To be fair too, LeFrog even gets to roast us Brits just as hard.
You stupid English, with your Yorkshire puddings and your chips and fish!
As admirable as LeFrog's faith to his family is, his blind loyalty to his villainous cousin leads to the minion sharing the exact same fate as Toad, a fair comeuppance for a baddie who sacrificed his morals and sense for trivial family allegiance. Prince Charming from Shrek 2. This dashing royal assumes that he is destined to rescue Princess Fiona from a castle, only to learn that Fiona has married Shrek the Ogre. So, Charming's pampering mum, fairy godmother, bribes Fiona's father, King Harold, into helping her to conspire against Shrek by making her son pretend to be a humanized Shrek. This character takes the classic fairy tale prince trope and subverts him into a bratty man-child with main character syndrome, a real mama's boy who can't function as a grown adult, yet acts like he's the suavest man around.
I shall rend his head from his shoulders. I will smite him where he stands.
He's the popular jock to Shrek's social outcast, the stereotypical prince that far, far away maybe wants, and the son-in-law that King Harold thinks he needs, even though Shrek is 10 times the prince that Charming could ever be.
Hey, you! Back away from my wife.
Shrek?
Charming has never met Shrek, so he can't exactly nail a perfect imitation of the ogre, but that doesn't matter to Charming, because he has natural charisma to work with. We can complain about Charming's arrogance all we want, but this narcissist knows how to turn on the charm and sound confident in everything he says, a gift that's backed up by Rupert Everett's buttery voiceover.
Fiona, my princess, would you honor me with a dance?
Impressively too, this same swagger can also help him to fill any holes in his plot, going to show that this minion isn't just some meathead, because he could be a quick-thinking henchman for his mother's scheme.
Charming? Do you think so? Dad, I was so hoping you'd approve.
Fiona, though, is intelligent enough to raise her suspicions right away, and she keeps her guard up for the rest of the film. Heck, the more Charming is himself, the less Fiona is on board. However, that does not stop the prince from turning to his secret weapon, a hidden dance talent. No matter how hard Charming tries though, he can never make Fiona swoon for him, because our baddies underestimated King Harold's bravery and Fiona's ability to outmatch her predators. Before I talk about my number one pick, please consider clicking the subscribe button below for more fun animation related videos. Cheers folks! Hotep and Hoy. These supposed sorcerers are the royal assistants to the pharaoh, who play an integral part in trying to debunk Moses' miracles. They're a slimy pair of minions, with crooked scowls and serpent-like movement. Little weasels that have gained palace positions by impressing royalty through deceptive stage magic, all while insisting that they're respectable Egyptian priests. What I find fascinating though, is that even though they're a very dubious duo, they're still quite superstitious and devout.
You put the hippo on the crocodile and the crocodile on the
falcon.
Yes, and the priest thought it was a horrible omen and fasted for 2 months.
Which does make them quite the hypocrites, because they throw blasphemy accusations at others, yet they're the ones who are using their gods for theatrical spectacle.
By the power of Ra. Moot.
There's a solid and engaging sense of competition between the priests and Moses too. Hotep and Hoy already possibly bear a grudge against Moses because he was the ringleader behind a series of humiliating pranks on the two, but now said feud has blossomed into something far more sinister, thus leading to a gripping back and forth battle of wits that tests Moses' real religious miracles against the priest's highly staged illusions. Every time that our hero pulls off a legit wonder, the grifting sorcerers now have to quickly convince their pharaoh how it was pulled off.
By the power of Ra!
Let's be real though, folks, the most memorable thing about these baddies is their spectacular minion song. Playing with the big boys now is one of those antagonistic musical numbers that builds and builds on itself.
Playing with the big boys now.
Oh, that's pretty.
and satisfyingly escalates into a smug parade of sneering menace. It's a henchman song that sticks with audiences because Hotep and Hoy are so freaking good at commanding their stage, all by rigging a multitude of imposing effects and letting their dominating personalities give off a "don't mess with us" message. Now, sure, the last we see of these two is during the plagues, but I actually like that they fade from the film during God's wrath, because it disturbingly implies that these priests most likely died from one of Egypt's many curses, which is quite a dark way of exposing the two as frauds. Next, why not check out my other minion ranking videos? I've been Jambareeqi. Cheerio, folks.